morning and welcome to Love Every Moment, coming to you today from Thompson, North Dakota. Today's verse is the last verse of 1 Corinthians 13. It's verse 13. But now faith, hope, love abide, these three. But the greatest of these is love. And of course, remember the whole context is the superiority of love over the gifts of the Spirit. And again, not that there's anything wrong with the gifts of the Spirit, but our focus should be on love. And as a part of that love, if the spiritual gifts become manifest in our lives, great. If something else becomes manifest, equally great. As long as we're loving Him, we were going to do His bidding naturally. Notice it says, faith, hope, love, abide, these three. Remember that Paul was arguing that the spiritual gifts are temporary and they're in part. They're not the whole idea. Love is what's going to last even through eternity. But the spiritual gifts are not going to be needed once we get to heaven. On top of that, if we really look at it, it says faith, hope, love, abide so far. And then the greatest of those is love. Well, the faith and hope are also not really going to be needed in heaven. Are we going to need faith where we're in heaven? Not really. What about hope? What are we hoping for? We're already there. So there's no real need for even faith and hope once we're in heaven. But again, love will last. And it's going to last that eternity. And imagine how wonderful that's going to be when we have an eternity to love God and an eternity for God to love us. Well, let's look at that word abide, and another verse that talks a little bit about that is 1 John 4:16. It says, we have come to know and have believed the love which God has for us. By the way, notice it's only talking about the love, not faith, hope, speaking in tongues, prophecy, or anything else. The love which God has for us. God is love. And the one who abides in love abides in God. And God abides in him. There's that eternal love going. Eternally we loving God and eternally God loving us. And in verse 17, by this, that is abiding in God's love, love is perfected with us so that we may have confidence in the day of judgment. Because as He is, so also are we in this world. There's often depictions of what God is going to ask us in the day of judgment. I don't think God's going to ask us anything, but if He were, I can tell you this, God's not going to ask us, so, how much did you speak in tongues? Or, so, how much did you give? Or, so, how much did you prophesy? If He was going to ask us anything, God would ask, how much did you love me? There you go. Now back to our main verse. It says the greatest of these is love. And of course that harkens back to a very familiar verse in Mark 12, starting in 28. One of the scribes came and heard them arguing and recognizing that He had answered them well, that is, Jesus answered them well, asked Him, what commandment is the foremost of all? Jesus answered, the foremost is, hear, O Israel, the Lord our God is one Lord, and you shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, and with all your soul, and with all your mind, and with all your strength. And did I mention all? It's everything. Love Him with everything we got. The second is this, you shall love your neighbor as yourself. There is no other commandment greater than these. Of course, loving our neighbor will happen as a natural result of loving God. So notice it doesn't say anything about the greatest commandment being speaking in tongues. No, it's all about love. That is the greatest commandment. And if that's what we're going to do for eternity, we might as well start practicing now. Let's wake up every morning and tell God how much we love Him. And focus on that. And again, if a manifestation of a spiritual gift happens as a result of that, wonderful. But if not, that's great. Because if we love every moment, we're going to love every moment. I'm your average wretch, and I hope you have a great week.